Let's see if I'm here and I'm live. I think I could. Yes, yes, we are live. We are live. You'll be seeing me putting on my glasses, taking off my glasses so I could read the chat. Let's see if the chat works. I see somebody. Hi there. Hi there. Let's see. Texas. Yes. Yippee. Yippee-yi-yo. Let's see. Let's see. In Texas, it would be, I guess, 3 p.m., something like 3 p.m. Wow, look at all those people. Great, great. I'll wait till a lot of people come in, and so we can just relax. I have my glass of water here. It's not wine, or else I won't be able to remember what I wanted to say. Now, I know I have to read this, but yes. Hi from, let's see, Portugal. My goodness, that's right around the corner from me. Same time, same station. California, EA. Wow. Let's see. All right. Okay, so let's get the balls rolling, okay? Let me say that I was so excited. I was so excited to be able to interact with you, even just to announce this. You know, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. So you have to remember that I'm here talking to you, and I'm seeing the chat scroll. You know, and it's hard for me to read and then write, talk, and do everything. But you keep writing, because every now and then I'll come in and peek, because I think I can. Ooh, Wisconsin. I've never been to Wisconsin, actually. Texas, it's 4 p.m. Did I make that mistake? Well, yeah, Texas, that's right. It's closer than, yeah. It's closer than Nevada, I think. Phoenix, Arizona, participated in the feedback. So it gave me an idea of what you were interested in. And before we start, I just wanted to say one thing. I got, especially for these live broadcasts, I have this little whiteboard, and it will help me to just give you a few notes. And I think you could see that it looks backward to me on my computer, but I think that you can see it right up. And I wrote myself a note here that initially I was so excited when I opened my channel, the Christelle Martinet channel, and then I got into reading crystals. I didn't get into it. I started to read the crystals, and I realized that not everyone enjoyed that, or people were afraid of that. So I thought, well, let me open another channel. And that was the Mystic Scrying Medium, Christelle. So instead of, extending myself, I would like to bring it all home, to this channel. And as of tomorrow, as of this weekend, I'll be scrying for the full moon in Aries, and for the new moons on this channel. And I'll be closing that, but I'll give out some messages. So where do we begin? I read the messages that you were writing to me, and what I found, I tried to jot down, I tried to think of, see what happens when, okay, if I go like that, there's no glare. I found some of the keywords, a couple of the keywords that were in your messages were, one, to tap into, how to tap into. Okay, so we'll cover these. And then I also had strengthen your abilities, to strengthen, you're strengthening something. And then people wanted to talk about protecting themselves, okay? It seems to be a common interest, to be protecting from. Another key word was psychic attack. Yeah, psychic attack. I hope you can read my handwriting. Psychic attack. What else did I then listening to. And another thing, your guides. Knowing who your guides are, how to contact them, how to interact with them. Then there was another interesting message that read, reaching out to your ancestors, to loved ones that have passed. And so they seem to be all of these things seem to be with a common, there was a common theme. And what the theme that I gleaned from this was, of course, the topic is how psychic is psychic? How do we know that we are psychic? What are the signs? And what's important is, first of all, I'll call it tuning in. All right. How do we tune in? How can you get on that wavelength? How do you know that you're there? How do you know that you can get there? Okay. One thing that this is the most common question that people say, but there was one comment, and I'll take it from here. One comment asked me, how can I go back to when I was a child and felt those sensations? What exactly were the words? I think it was a woman. I'm not sure. I think she said exactly those. Something about going back to when I was a child. So this is a key. This is a key. When you, I'm going to put this down. When you are children, we all know that children don't have all of these superimposed layers of culture that we grow up with, and the teaching and extra added things that are given to us, passed on by our environment. Okay, so children are sort of special. They smell, they taste, they hear much more, and they have more readily, responsive reactions. And so that was a really interesting bit of insight there. So what I could probably, say about this tuning in, the first thing is that we come to a point, we may be successful, less successful. It doesn't matter how much money you have, what kind of house you have, where you're standing, on the top of the mountain or on the bottom of the mountain, looking up or looking down. There comes a point at any age where we ask ourselves questions. We start to ask ourselves questions. What is this thing called love? Okay, that's a very common question. What is this thing called love? What is it something, or am I making it up? Okay, and I'm bringing the concept of love in because when we talk about psychic abilities, and when we talk about spirituality, oftentimes the questions that arise come from a moment when we are so madly in love, we are so blinded, in inverted commas, we are so involved in an abstract thing that we don't know how to call. We don't know the definition of it. And that usually is a moment when we start asking ourselves, what is this? What is this hope that I have? What is this feeling that I have for this person? How could I trust them all of a sudden, And so let's say that depending on our experience, of course, we all have different experiences, but generally the questions will arise when you come up to a crossroad. You start thinking, many people who come to me say, I'm really at a crossroad. I'm starting to change. Something is definitely starting to change. Let me stop just a second and read some of these comments. You imagine me with dark hair. No, I was born with red hair. I always had red hair. Then I turned blonde. Then I was white with black stripes and purple stripes. I've been everything. So I've been all different colors, but never black. Now there are other questions. Oh, that's so sweet. You're saying beautiful. Oh, your skin deep is beauty, New Zealand, holy. Okay, so let's get back to the questions. People who come to me generally say, Christelle, I came to you. The first question I ask them, what brings you to me? What brings you to my door? And they say, well, I'm really at a crossroads. Everything is changing. I really sense that something is changing. So that's when you begin to see that it might be time, well, it is time for you to get an answer, because none of the things that you've been doing so far are satisfying you. Okay, so we're touching just the surface now, And then there's a time, there's a thing that I call friction. There's a thing that happens that actual friction, is when two bodies, two inanimate or animate things collide, and it causes another form of energy, like heat. In this case, there's heat there, okay? Friction, so that you come across, your energy comes across the energy of something else. It could be a person. It could be dynamics at work. It could be anything, but your energy field collides with that, and friction occurs. It could cause so many things. It could cause you to be angry. It changes the state of your energy, okay? Let's put it that way. It changes the state of your energy. When that happens, when you collide with something and you don't feel comfortable, something snaps. Something not breaks, but snaps. You start to feel something give. Okay, there's something that's changing. And that's also a sign that you are looking for, you're needing something more than you already have. Nothing will answer it. No amount of money, I keep going back to the idea of money. No amount of money or ease or convenience will give you that sensation of satisfaction, of warmth, of really love inside. Then what usually happens is something that I'd like to call the dark night of the soul. All right, now, this is nothing to be afraid of. We've all experienced that. When I say the dark night of the soul, I like to think of it as a moment when, again, I always talk about love. When you have a relationship and you become so close to a person, to another soul, actually, when a lot of people come to me and they ask me about their soul mate or their twin flame. And when you feel so in tune and so close, and when you're removed and your expectations are not met, we're in this space alone, and your soul tells itself, you reason and you say, what could I expect? Why would I expect that person so much from one person? That's silly. You're back and forth like tennis, telling yourself, but I know there's something more. There's something there. There's something, as if that person or persons have to give you something or transmit something. They have to give you a sensation. And it makes us precipitate, go down, into a dark area where we feel that, on the one hand, loneliness. And you remember, and I hope you can follow me because I start going in different ways. Sometimes on my website, ChristelleMartinet.com, the first thing you see is the language of one. Okay, the language of one. That's my company's name. That's what my LLC, the language of one. Now, the language of one means that there is a language. There is a language that's really unspoken, and it is one. And if I am to think, if Christelle Martinet is to think, all right, I'm a client. I come to you and I say, I've met this man or I've met this woman, and I really feel there's something there. And the person, and I'm not 20 years old or 15 years old, or, I have a certain, maturity, and I have a lot of experience, I hope. In any case, I've lived a while, all right? And so I say to you, I've met a lot of people, but this is different. This is absolutely different. Now, then the next question that I usually receive is this my soulmate? Or is this something I'm making up? Okay. And And so then I speak to them and I try to understand what they mean by soulmate. And then I come to the conclusion and I'll say it, and you can all hate me and flame me and tell me, terrible things. You can say whatever you want, but what is, and we're talking, okay? We're talking, we're just, exchanging ideas here with this live. That's what the lives are all about. I mean, I want to learn from you. You want to learn from me. And it's healthy to exchange ideas. And this is what I usually say, and clients of mine who may be listening to me will remember this. I would say, look, it would be odd if we were put on this earth and we were, the universe gave us one chance to have another person, that would be a mate, a soulmate, and it would be one person in the entire world in the entire time. And I thought, and wouldn't that be cruel? Wouldn't that be cruel for us? It's as if we were little mice in a maze and we had to look for each other. That would be a cruel thing if the universe put us in that condition, right? So let's take a little light, a little look for lightness, take a load off and think, well, obviously it can't be, and this is the reasoning process. And I'm just a human. I'm only, flesh and blood myself. And no matter how much I studied, no matter how much I've been doing this work, I still have the questions like everyone else, sometimes. And what I come to the conclusion is, and I'm linking this to psychic abilities, is that what this helps us. So I'm sidestepping just like a crab. I'm going sideways and getting away from the answer to that soulmate question, but we'll get to that one of these live times. But the answer would be that all of these questions that we ask each other, ourselves, brings us to a space that puts us into a situation whereby we use our energy to go out and bring back. Okay, let me give you an example. Let's try an experiment, okay? Just let me stop and read a little bit. Florida, oh, you lucky people. Kentucky, my God, that's another place I've never been to, Kentucky. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so now let's try this experiment, all right? I know that you're scrolling there and there are people watching, I guess. I'm going to now close my eyes and you close your eyes and just listen to my voice. I've got my eyes closed. You close your eyes and let's just tune in for 30 seconds, and then I'll call a stop. And think of something that is on your mind. And let's see what happens after 30 seconds. Okay. Well, first of all, a lot of people didn't close their eyes. I knew that. That's what I was feeling. There's a lot of hubbub, and people on it. There's a lot of energy. I feel a lot of contrasting energy. This is the first time, you want to come out, and I want to get into the screen. So it's difficult to do this kind of exercise. But what I'm getting, what I'm receiving from that is there are a lot of people with the same thoughts, a lot of people who are thinking along the same lines, in the sense that, of course, there's the person who is unhappily married in a relationship. There's the person who has been alone for the past 10 years. There's the person who just broke up with a love, and there's a person who just lost someone tragically. You know, there are many different, you know, there's like a fan of different situations among us, all right? People who are very, very happy, people who are very sad, and people who are suffering quietly. Okay, let's put it this way. But there's a common element here, and there's the element of what I call a social thrust. You know, there's, we're animals that seek, we keep looking for, and we keep feeling, and we keep wanting. We want to learn. We're animals that need to learn in order to survive. Okay, so now let me go back to the question in the beginning when we talked about love being akin to psychic abilities, because it brings us into a space where we start questioning when we when our expectations are not met, when we don't understand what's happening, when the person that we are interested in does not reciprocate in kind, and then you start to doubt yourself. So there's so many different and vying energies there. But that is the first step, the questions that you ask. All right, then I talked about the friction. Remember, there was the friction, and something snaps and something changes. Then there's the dark night of the soul. And the dark night of the soul is the same for everyone. It's the night when, right before you go to someone to ask and get answers, because there's no longer the possibility for you yourself to give yourself answers, okay? And we all do this. We all do this. And I'll tell you why. I'm a reader, right? And I'm a psychic. And for my personal problems, I can open the cards, I can look, I can think, I can meditate. But if you look, to be able to see my eyes, I have to look in the mirror. I cannot turn my eyeballs around and look in my eyes. So I don't see. That tells me that I'm not able to see what pertains to me. So I have to go to someone else. And this is logical. Of course, it's possible to have an out-of-body experience that many of us do have, and then you can see. But when the windmill starts and you're on that little treadmill, it's very difficult for you yourself to see. So when you get to the dark night of the soul, all right, and you either go to someone to get help or to get guidance, okay, we'll call it guidance, or you dwell in this dark area, what happens is that immediately after, I don't want to say the time is so relative, time is relative, but immediately after you feel like you cannot go any lower, there's an awakening process. There's the starting of an awakening. Awakening because you open your eyes, it seems, for the first time, and you start looking for things. You start looking for things, and you start picking up things, and you start looking for what would help me, you know? And that's the questions of what would help me? What should I read? What should I be doing? Right, this is the seeking process. Then there is a process where you find things that are, well, let's talk about the seeking first of all. All right, let's say I have to go to a wedding next week. I'm going to a wedding and I wanted to wear a red dress. Okay, so I've got this idea in my head. I want to get a red dress. And I won't stop until I get a red dress because I have this in my mind, okay? So I go around, and you know that every time I go back to the United States and I go into a supermarket, I'm like a child, and I'm amazed at how many cereals there are on the shelves, you know, because in Italy there's a shelf and there are cereals, but it's not that long, you know. So there's the element of choice. So what happens, we human beings, when we're traveling around, you sense, because or else we would not be able to walk down the streets, you sense, your eye and your ears pick up what you're interested in. What you're interested in, it hits you. So out of the corner of my eye, I'll see a red in a shop window, and that's where I'll go. Okay. So the same thing when you're seeking aid or information about spirituality, because some people have experience or, for example, or are akin to or know people who are shamans, for example, or simply the word shaman may sound exotic to them. And so they think that that's the way so they do it. There are different words to say similar things. And of course, language helps us, and it hinders us in when we have to explain things. But let me just check here. Okay. When we go and we seek out what information to help us, we can do that in a way that we have to have faith in our ability to pick up things. And this requires a lot of practice. I mean, you don't have to go out buying red dresses, 20 of them, before you realize that you'll be able to find one. But there's also a practice that leads to the idea of trust. You have to trust your senses, trust your gut reaction, trust that you'll be able to trust the universe, that you will be helped and you'll be put on a path that will serve you. All right, now let's go back just a second. You might want to ask some questions. I'll keep looking. Okay, let's see. Pennsylvania, Vancouver. Haven't been there either. Okay, let me go back to here. Tap into. All right, how do I tap into? Remember, I mentioned the child. Children just are like sponges, and they have this antenna up all the time, and they listen to things, and they pick up things. They see ghosts more readily than we do. They see and they feel the energy and negative energies as well all around them. How can we strengthen ourselves? And this goes along with protecting ourselves. I have a coaching program that I call the Tuning In program. And in the Tuning In program, I ask a couple of questions. First, when people come to me and they want to know, how can I, improve my psychic abilities, I'll give them 3 questions before we start. So this way I know what they're looking for. And the first question is, what's the level of your psychic ability that you think today? How have you experienced it? All right. When I ask that question, I'd like the people to tell me, look, I was in a mall looking for that red dress, and all of a sudden I had an illumination. I knew right then and there. I had the answers to a question I had been asking myself for a month. Right now, that is what I'm talking about. How do you know what happens? What kind of experiences have you had? And that will give you a clue as to how it was given to you. If it just came, if it was subconscious, it just came to you, or were you seeking it out? Were you asking for certain bits of information? This is really, really important, because it's one thing to just be walking down the street and just be hit by lightning and say, oh, here it is. Here's the answer. So that will, bother us. That will sort of cut into our business, But if you're in a position where you go and get the answers, that's what we want. That's what we want. We want to be able to ask and then use the information that we are able to get. In the second question that I asked them is, what's the most important thing for you to get out of this? What is the most important thing for you to understand? If you're coming to me and I'm supposed to guide you in some way, what do you want to get out of it? That's really important. And the last question would be how committed you are. Do you want things to happen like that without any work? It's practice. We have to practice and realize, I'll give you an example. and it's a funny example. Okay. I was watching every now and then I look at other readers and just, just change the channels just to take a look at what people are doing. And I don't have much patience, but I came across a person who was reading a Ouija board or had a Ouija board. Okay. And they were trying to use the Ouija board on camera. Excuse me. And it just didn't work. And apparently that they did this over and over several times, videos on it, And I was thinking to myself, well, how odd, how odd this is in my mind, I thought, how odd would that happen in front of everyone in a situation where, there's a nondescript audience, you don't know who's listening, you don't know who's watching and or what their energies are like. How could you think that something would work for you that way, Now, it's a very personal experience how you go about asking for things, how you go about sensing things. There is a process, going back to the guides. We come to the guides. There's I offer a service. One of my services is learning about your spirit guide team. I call it the spirit guide scan, I think, something like that. And what it is that I find how many guides you have, first of all, because we do have a number of, well, let me just cover this briefly. When we talk about spirit guides, there's a lot of confusion and a lot of differing information, a lot of differing ideas, okay? I call them spirit guides. Other people might call them angels. Other people might call them fairies, different things. But I believe that we incarnate, okay? Born, we incarnate. Our soul comes into a body of its choice, the situation of its choice, and we have a guide then. And in our formative years, from birth to about 20, we get other guides. And we can have from 4 to 6 guides, depending how independent we are. If we're more independent, we would only have 4 guides. If we're less independent, we have more guides, okay? And there is of this team, all right, just I'm giving it to you briefly so you understand what I mean when I talk about guides. Everybody it's like a soccer game here with the guides. All right, all of the guides have a certain role. They come from a certain background. They have they learn to they impulse you in a certain way. One guide, I'll give you my example, okay? I have 4 guides, and they go by names. They want to be called by certain names. And my main guide, my first guide, is a guy called Peter, and and I know what he physically looks like. I know the whole, how he wants. I keep saying he, although it's a soul, okay? How they want to be seen and how they want to impulse. And so this guide always, when he wants to get my attention, I will start losing things. And there was a year that I lost 3 pairs of dance shoes. And I didn't realize, I just didn't realize. And for some reason, he wanted to get my attention. And sometimes I'll find the things right after I realize what it's about, and other times I won't. That's one way of the guides impulsing you. Another way, for example, there's a guide. I'll use examples from different clients. When you'll see colors of a vivid colored red, for example, and that will be a sign that that guide is trying to get your attention. There's a smell. It could go through your senses, smell. When you smell a certain scent of flowers, when you hear particular music, then they try to get your attention. But it's different for everyone. And they also have a certain role for you. And it depends on your own soul's background, your own soul's origin, and your own divine gifts. We all have our own. Now, so how psychic is psychic, all right? Psychic is as psychic as we want to develop it, and it takes practice. And we started the conversation. I'm looking at the clock and I'm looking over here. We started the conversation by asking, what is it? And I mentioned love. So let's say that this first live talk was just to put out a lot of ingredients. And one of the topics of my coaching program that we'll discuss in another video is psychic hygiene, I call it, psychic hygiene, spiritual hygiene, or hygiene in the sense of protecting yourself from psychic attacks. And so that will be in another video, and because there's this whole other talk that we need to have on what is negativity? What is that? I mean, how do you feel the negativity? How do you feel the light? Where is the light? How do you know you're in light? So let's just ease into this business of being psychic and spirituality. And there are another two things that I wanted to mention, and I'll throw them out there on my website. There's a blog area. I think it's way over to the right. And there are two articles up, and they're about consciousness. Now, consciousness is also let's say that the jury is still out. People are not in agreement as to what consciousness is. Being psychic is awareness. Consciousness, we can say, is awareness. A lot of people say, well, is consciousness love? If I walk very, very fast every day, very, very, very fast, it's just my pace. I'm a fast walker, okay? Then one day, I decide to walk very slowly and take my shoes off and walk barefoot and feel the earth or the concrete under my skin, under my feet. I'll bet you, and I can bet my bottom dollar, that I'm going to start feeling different sensation under those feet. And that's going to stop me and be more aware of what I'm doing, because I'm carrying a whole skeleton with stuff on top, and we always forget that this third dimension, this place where we live, is so freaking heavy. It is so heavy. My builds are heavy. My body seems to be heavy. I love to go swimming. Why? Because when I'm in the water, we're all the same. It's just wonderful. But this third dimension, we're living in an area where life is, we have to get up in the morning. And of course, it depends on the nature of your nature, your personality or your makeup, how you deal with that. But we are in this third dimension, and it's very difficult to get out to another dimension and have ourselves understand that time is also a dimension that's very relative, and it's very subjective. Going back to psychic, what is psychic? Subjectivity as well. When I talk about how psychic is psychic, the only service that I ever thought could possibly, because a lot of people ask me if I could coach them, if I could, can you, no, they didn't say coach, they said, can you, not sponsor, I can't remember the English word. Well, I guess it's coach, I don't remember, tutor me or something like that. And I didn't understand, and I wasn't keen on that idea. And then I realized the best thing to do would be teach others to do something for themselves, because they are the only people who know how they are and what they are like. I obviously, through my psychic abilities, understand many things, but ultimately to make anything stick, let's say I can teach, but I cannot learn for you. Okay, so that's the idea. It's the learning process. And being psychic requires or seeking to awaken your psychic abilities require us to put ourselves in an area where we question everything and at the same time understand that reality is not always as we think. Reality can change depending on what glasses you wear. It can depend on whether you're looking from down here, you're looking from up there. You know, reality has it depends on the eyes that you use. So when we get into a space where we understand that, okay, my bills are here, up here, way up here, my companion's over there, my lover's over there, my job is over here, my cards are over here, and more bills are over here. You say to yourself, well, there's got to be an area where this clutter is removed because I can't breathe anymore. And that's why one of the qualities of starting to tune in, like the first key word, tap into, is the breathing process. We need to be able to breathe in a certain way. And I know every time, please forgive me if I'm going to say this, yoga makes me get sick. Every time I hear yoga, I don't want to even hear about yoga. It makes me sick. I do a lot of other things, but I have to say, the breathing process that is part of yoga. I learned the breathing process through another practice, but it helps you tap into and tune into a dimension that will help you start finding some answers. And so I understand that, I've been now talking for about 40 minutes, but I understand that it's difficult to, put things together. And I've tried to get the key words out of your messages that you wrote to me and try to piece them together and come out with a running theme. This is the first. Let's say this is the first video for a live video that we have a talk on. So what I'm going to do is break here and start reading your messages and just, give me, I just want to talk. I want to read. I want to see this is the only way to reach. Okay. Reaching God. Right. There are different ways of calling beings. People can call them God. There are many different ways. Or Jesus Christ. There are many different ways. The language that we use just constrains us sometimes, but it's the same ideas. Let's say, what else? Let's see, what else? Let's see. I can scroll down. I can read you from the top. Yes. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Pasadena, from an Aries, from Canada. Okay. So let's see if you have any other questions for my next live. I'm going to, over the weekend, excuse me, put out a scrying video for the the full moon in Aries on the 24th. And it usually runs for a week. So I'll probably do it tomorrow it will last the week. And I will post an announcement for the next live video when I have time to do that. And again, I'll invite you to put your comments in and help me fine tune what we'll talk about. It was a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, for me to be here. Really, it's an honor to be able to address you. I can't tell you how. Namaste, ladies and gentlemen. And until we see each other again, bye-bye.